Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, TV land, wherever you're at. Welcome to WeBeam TV, and this is Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve. I'm Ray Amanat, here in the WeBeam Studios in Port Richey, Florida. Looking forward to another fantastic interview and a sensitive topic that we're going to talk about today. And with me, I have my co-host, Mr. Steve Reed, somewhere in an undisclosed safe house because he's a little snowflake in Texas. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Oh, Ray. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How's the road to recovery, Mr. Pain Master?
We're walking, still in a brace, but we're walking. So that day will come when I will be uninhibited with my movement. We'll just put it that way.
I'm looking forward to it. Then we can get to some training with each other.
Oh, absolutely.
So speaking of training, one of our sponsors is, of course, Heroes in Action. Heroes in Action is a non-for-profit organization that I founded that's based here in Port Richey, Florida, but we go anywhere and do seminars on violence prevention. So you're looking at anti-bullying, child abduction, child grooming, women's self-defense, dealing with active shooters, any topic that has to do with personal safety or violence, we have workshops and seminars on. If you'd like more information, you can go to our website at heroesinaction.us and reach out to us with all the contacts there. So Steve, on today's show, our topic is going to be covering our Second Amendment rights. We have a very special guest, Miss Jerah Hutchins, who is the owner of Clearing the Chamber, as she is a firearms instructor, a CPR, BLS instructor, a situational awareness, and non-lethal weapons instructor, and I'm sure a whole lot of other things. So if we can bring Jerah on. Jerah, how are you doing?
I'm really good. How are y'all?
Did I leave anything out?
Oh, I'm sure we'll get to it. But, I try to be a jack of all trades,
Wouldn't that be a Jane of all trades?
It's a
sure. I mean, I don't know if I identify as a jack,
That's another show, Jerah. That's another show.
Can you tell us how you became a gun enthusiast and a firearms instructor?
I can. I grew up in a gun family. We loved the Second Amendment. My grandparents were immigrants. Well, my grandfather was an immigrant from Sicily. My grandmother was Native American. So if you look at the histories of, those particular races, you would see a lot of oppression, a lot of disarmament. So they were just really, really pro-gun. And when I moved to the city, I think I was 19 when I moved from the country to the city, because originally I'm from East Texas. There was a culture shock for me. Like, I discovered that they didn't look at guns the same way in the city as they did the country. And so I had a stalker in my early 20s, and I thought to myself, I'm pretty good with a shotgun. I know my way around a rifle, but that's not really going to help me if this person decides that they want to mess with me when I'm out and about. So started taking some handgun classes, started going to the range by myself. My friends started to notice, and they wanted to go too, and they wanted to learn too. And so then, I founded Clearing the Chamber 13 years ago. It was a side hustle. And then I took it full time in 2017. And I just really developed a passion for serving the female community. We have been underserved in training and in learning this and being able to execute it efficiently. And I really just aim to change that.
So, Jerah, quick question for you. We have, of course, two primary political parties in the country right now. One of them that leans very much to the left and pretty much hates guns unless they have them. And then you have those on the right that pretty much love guns, and they don't really care who has them, other than they don't want those on the left to have them because leftists are a little squirrely at times. Anyway, I set that up by saying, we just had another shooting. This one was up in New York. And the president is making some comments, as he does frequently, about gun rights and what we can and can't do, what we should and shouldn't do, and how he can take away guns away from people. What are your thoughts on all of the things that he is saying and those on the left? What are your thoughts on what's going on with that?
Complete horse pucky. Complete. There isn't a place on earth where it is inappropriate for you to have tools of self-defense. Not one place. And that is something, this is political theater. They have no plan. They've never had a plan. If you look at how they have tried to execute gun control in the past, it makes no logistical or logical sense. So, I testified in a gun rights hearing in 2019 here in Dallas at Brookhaven College in front of our state representatives. And I made it very clear, science makes it very clear, that the only people who can purposefully respond to a situation of duress are the people who are already there. No one is coming to save you. People need to understand the value of time. It takes time for someone to get to you, to help you. Therefore, you have to be a better ambassador of your own safety. You have to be your own first responder. So there is nothing that gun grabbers or anti-gun people can say. There is nothing that the president or anyone in his administration can say that is going to alleviate this problem. The only solution to this problem is to arm, train, and empower the civilian gun owner. That is the only solution.
I always look at the hypocrisy of how you have politicians that have Secret Service or they have private security protecting them with guns behind walls, but then they don't want us to have walls to keep the bad people out, and they don't want us to have guns because, as you said, it's that response time. Anywhere, in the city, it could be anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes for law enforcement to show up. In your rural communities, you're looking at anywhere between 15 minutes to a half hour before they show up. So it is having the ability to be your own first responder. I agree with you totally. Steve, I know you said you had a follow-up with that.
Yeah, how does this relate to things going on in Chicago or Los Angeles or New York, where the gun laws are so restrictive that people are not allowed to protect themselves, but now you've got a situation where people can protect themselves or should be protecting themselves? How do we overcome those sorts of things? And I want to focus not too much on Chicago, but you look at the crime rate in Chicago and people can't defend themselves because they have so many restrictions. How does that play into something like this?
Well, what's happening in Chicago and New York is honestly the fault of the citizens of Chicago and New York. They are not standing up to their government. What the governments of Illinois and New York are doing is completely unconstitutional. There is no reason why it should be that difficult to obtain a gun permit or why even have a gun permit at all, especially when it has been proven by data that the states in the United States that have constitutional carry, which I think there are 20 or 22 now, all the data shows that gun licenses have actually gone up on average 20% in those states. So people are doing the responsible thing by getting the training, even though the law states that they don't necessarily have to. So what's playing out is an incredible amount of control. They want to control people. So this whole idea of absolute power corrupting absolutely is exactly what we're seeing in places like Chicago and New York. And all those laws are doing are turning good people into criminals, and it's completely unacceptable.
Very true.
Jerah, at what moment did you decide to not just be a firearms instructor, but to also become a vocal Second Amendment advocate?
It was probably in 2019. I was approached by a lady named Rachel Malone, who used to run the Texas chapter of Gun Owners of America. And she told me about this gun rights hearing that was coming up at Brookhaven College, and she wanted to make me part of invited testimony. And I didn't want to do it. I had a successful gun training career. I was doing very well in my business. I had a passion for what I was doing. I loved what I was doing, but I had zero. I didn't want to be involved in politics at all. And she told me that I really didn't have a choice. I mean, we needed more women that were going to testify. We needed more women that could be articulate about the Second Amendment. We needed more women who were firearms experts, who were self-defense experts, right? So this story, and no offense to either one of you or any man, but this story was being told by men and has been told by men for hundreds of years, and women and minorities haven't really had much of a voice. And we Rachel especially really wanted to change that. And so she convinced me. She met me at an IHOP at like 10 o'clock at night and taught me how to testify. And she said the mistake that a lot of people make is they write their speech several days before they go to the hearings, and really you need to pay attention to what other people are saying at the hearings, and you need to write what you want to say probably about 15 minutes before your panel goes up. And that's what I ended up doing, because what I didn't want to do and what she didn't want me to do was regurgitate other information that people had already said. I needed to bring up different points and more poignant points. And that's what ended up happening. And then after that, I just really had a huge passion and a huge desire to continue to spread this word and continue to stand up to unreasonable government control of our basic Second Amendment right.
Jerah, I just saw a replay, a little video clip of the new White House spokesperson, and Peter Ducey was asking her some questions about the economy and inflation, and she took about 3 or 4 minutes to filibuster and talk about everything but the subject matter. And so I say that because it sounds to me like you have the knowledge of what our rights are, how you defend yourself, what you can do, what you shouldn't do, all of those kinds of things. So it sounds like you have a good, solid knowledge, which means you don't have to filibuster. You can just come out with the straightforward facts as we're going through. So what you're talking about with your testimony was the simple fact that you knew what you were talking about. So with that in mind, there's not a whole lot of prep time because the knowledge is already up here, and you're able to just simply respond based on everything that you are seeing along the way. So with that said, you're in an environment, whether it's in an interview, in a testimony sort of a scenario, or you're with a client or a prospective client. What are some of the most common questions that you're going to get on a day-to-day basis about defending yourself, gun rights, all of those things, big picture? What are the most common questions?
The most common questions that people ask are, what gun is best for me for home defense? What gun is best for me to carry? They always ask about, carrying in the vehicle, purse carry, all these different things. And those questions, they think, I get a lot of people that, get into my direct messages and ask those questions. And I don't mind to answer them, but what they don't understand, and the big education piece that they're missing, is that question requires questions. I need to know your lifestyle. Do you live in a house? Do you live in an apartment? Do you live on land? Is your neighbor right up next to you? I need to understand your body type and your lifestyle. And please, for the love of God, stop carrying in your purse, because not one person has ever drawn their weapon. And in any scenario-based class that I have ever taught, No woman drawing from a purse has ever beat me. Like on the body carry is the way to go. And so it's kind of blowing out these sort of preconceived notions about what people think they can do with a gun. And that's why scenario-based training is so important. And that's why we've got to get people like motivated and able to show up in person. So this idea of learning everything you need to know about a gun online is complete horse pucky. Like, you've got to carve out time, and you've got to show up, and you've got to put yourself in these scenarios that you think you know what you would do, and you think you understand how quickly you can get it done, but you really can't. And that's probably my favorite class to teach. I have a class called the What If Scenarios, and I do it a lot for moms. And we use airsoft pistols, and I holster them to their bodies, and I put them in situations that they could likely be in, right? Kidnapping, abduction, domestic violence, people getting harassed at their vehicles or at the gas station or whatever. And not one woman that has ever taken that class from me walked away and said, I already knew all that. They are shocked, and they are floored by how good they thought they could be at something. But what they don't realize is that the body will never go where the mind has never been. And so scenario-based training for the average civilian has never been more available than it is now. And that's where we need to move our concentration to when it comes to training civilians, right? But those are the most common questions that I get is, what gun is the best for me? What's the best way to carry, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. So follow up on that. You mentioned something about watching something online. Are you saying that watching a video of, whomever, some cop that's doing something online, or some kind of an instructional video that you're watching, are you saying that in-person hands-on training is the best way to go, as opposed to me watching a Chuck Norris movie and thinking that I can take out Ray with all of his years of experience in martial arts? So you're saying hands-on and not classroom, but actually in real life scenario. I mean, obviously not real life, but good setups. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yes, partly. I get a lot of requests from people that ask me, can you do this class online? Can you create an online class for this? Can you demonstrate this online? And yeah, I mean, if you wanted me to teach you grip and stance, I can demonstrate that on a video all day long. But people are moving toward this idea that we can do everything online, and it's not the best way to learn this skill. It has to be in person. I have to be able to coach you and see you move. I have to be able to correct your terrible grip, which you're going to have, which every new shooter has. I have to be able to show you how to stand. I have to be able to critique your marksmanship, to be able to see your anticipation of recoil. I have to be able to do all of these things, and it doesn't work online. And so people are going to have to understand that if this is something that you want to learn, you're going to have to make the time to be physical, and you're going to have to make the time to be there in person.
Jerah, I love everything that you're saying, and I totally believe in reality-based training. And because I teach self-defense as well, and one of the things I say is, I'd rather you make mistakes in the classroom and you get a do-over, whereas in a parking lot or anywhere else, you get one chance to do it right. So having that hands-on ability to correct, refine, if the person has an injury, if the person has a disability, and I just think a lot of the concealed carry classes are doing a disservice because they don't really offer scenario-based training. They just offer the basics as far as how to stand, the difference between a revolver and a semi-automatic, how to load a gun, how to, front sights, how to use your sight control, your trigger control. But then for that same token, they don't do anything as far as weapon retention or drawing from somewhere on your body. So I love what you're doing.
But that's because so many instructors don't know how to teach that. They do the basic dead level foundational training that you go down to Austin, Texas, and you're basically learning the law and regurgitating the law to people is what you're doing. And they don't know how to teach scenario-based training because they're not allowing themselves to learn that. And that's what, and sometimes even as an instructor, you learn something new off the cuff when you're teaching scenario-based training, right? I mean, none of these things are going to go 100% as planned. And that's the whole point of scenario-based training, is teaching people how to critically think quickly and in the moment and get out of this freeze situation that the body will naturally do. And that's how I tell people, and I'm sure that you know this, but people often ask me if they're not in Texas, but they hear about me. They're like, how do I find a good instructor in my state? And I'm like, the first thing you need to ask any gun instructor is, do they know the body's 7 natural reactions to stress, stimulus, and fear? If they do not know that, they are not going to be able to teach you scenario-based training. That is a foundational knowledge that anybody that teaches scenario-based training should know. And one of the best instructors that I've come across is, the instructors that I work with in the Personal Defense Network. And that's where I learned this. So I had just relegated myself in my career to just teaching intro classes. I wanted to get women ready to take advanced training from people like you, right? And I learned that I can actually walk people a little bit further into this process by learning the scenario-based training stuff myself. And all it did was further my career, make me a better trainer, but also it shed light onto other instructors that I've encountered in the past who just simply do not know how to teach this.
You can keep preaching that. I agree 100%. There's so many people that I've come across that I'm like, you're going to get somebody killed. But we have to take a break. And this is something that for one of our sponsors is Defenders Gateway. I know you've got a military background, or if you know of people that are first responders or in the military, this is a free app that they can get that gives them discounts on all types of stores, restaurants. So we'll send you information, but this is also the Defenders Gateway Coffee. So we've got a short video to play.
It's finally here, Defenders Gateway Premium Coffee. Order yours today by land, sea, or air. Every day, millions of Americans sacrifice everything to put out our fires, mend our wounds, heal our sick, and protect our loved ones. Now all Americans have been asked to heed the call to give back to the men and women who gave their all. And remember, folks, 60% of all proceeds of Defenders Gateway Coffee go directly to our defenders and their families. Order yours today at defendersgatewaycoffee.com.
You can also go to the defendersgatewaycoffee.com to order the different flavors of coffee that you're interested in. And for every purchase that you make, they donate to nonprofit charities that help first responders and military families, especially people that are Gold Star families or people that have lost someone in the line of duty. It's another good way to really support our first responders and our military. Jerah, do you ever worry about the cancel culture or backlash because of your views?
I used to. And that's why I never wanted to be involved outside of just training people, because there wasn't really anybody that disagreed with me training people, even people who are anti-gun. They were like, hey, the Second Amendment still exists, and we're all for training, and thank you for helping people be safer. But it really started to wear on me, these people that would say, I support the Second Amendment, but. And I don't think there should be a but. This entire country survives on the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. 1 + 2 = 3. That's what it is. And so we can debate about everything else. If you want universal health care or abortion rights, or if we want to argue about illegal immigrants coming into the country, all of that is secondary behind the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. We don't have the ability to argue, debate, or instill any of these other things that we're talking about without the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. And so there shouldn't ever be a I support the Second Amendment, but ever at all. And so was I worried about it? Yes. And then the more that I started to advocate for the Second Amendment, the less I cared about those people's opinions. And it's actually a super primary reason why I went into business for myself. I got out of corporate America. I started my own business. I started, looking at other businesses that I can invest in and have multiple streams of income. Because when you are self-sufficient and you can survive on your own, cancel culture doesn't matter. Nobody can cancel me.
Good attitude. Love the attitude. Absolutely love the attitude. I love your independence. I love your strength, your confidence.
And do that face again. Do that face again.
That's the face of I really don't care what your opinion is.
Nobody can cancel me.
Exactly. In my coaching practice, I teach a phrase to all of my clients, and it goes like this: I will consider your opinion. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree with your opinion. I will consider it. Okay, I disagree, so I'm going to move on. And you've got that same attitude that you will listen to what people have to say, but what's right and what's wrong. What is something that you're going to agree with or not. But I've heard it said, and I know you have heard this said, that a gun is the great equalizer in America today. It's a great equalizer no matter where we are. And I've seen so many women that are afraid of guns and they don't want to have anything to do with guns. But on the other side of the coin, if somebody that's 6'4", 280 pounds, all muscle is coming after them, and that woman is 5'2", how does she equalize that scenario? So with that said, I'm guessing that women are becoming more and more attracted to the types of training that you are giving on a regular basis. Why is it women are becoming more interested in finally defending themselves? What's your take on that?
Well, I think it's because we are, I think they're starting to realize, at least I hope they're starting to realize, that they can't be protected all the time. I know that I've heard women say, well, my husband will protect me, or I'll just call the police. And I think that that's when we really have to learn the physical value of time. And that's something that we preach. But women are really starting to become better ambassadors of their own safety, which means that we have to figure out better ways to teach them. And that's one of the reasons why I started my training company, is because I went through bad training. I went through training with men who didn't want to teach me because it wasn't cool to teach chicks how to shoot, because we were afraid of guns, or we couldn't do all the tactical fun things, that they could do. And women are, and a lot of times from a psychological perspective, women get into guns out of necessity, whereas a lot of men who are into guns, learned it because it was fun, because it was something that was attractive for them to do, as a hobby or a sport. And I try to make it fun. I try to make it accessible. I break things down into layman terms and then build foundations on that, so that women can understand without using a bunch of acronyms or, military lingo or law enforcement lingo. Like, we have to break it down to its most foundational form, and then we have to build it up, in layers for people to understand. Men, they just want to pull a trigger. Women need a checklist of things to do in order to achieve a goal, so you have to understand how women learn. And we are the largest demographic of new firearms owners. Therefore, I feel like I have a huge responsibility to do what I can to train these women up the right way. And in turn, what I've seen is, my male clientele has grown exponentially, especially over the last 3 years, because when you teach women firearms the right way, they feel confident going to talk about it. right? And so they're going home and they're talking about it with their dads and their brothers and their boyfriends and their husbands. And then their dads, brothers, boyfriends, and husbands are going, well, I didn't know that. Maybe I need some training. And then we get the opportunity to kind of formalize this knowledge with everyone. But where the frustration has come in is a lot of times instructors, what I've found is instructors don't really write out a pathway to training for their students. And they need to do that because a lot of students get confused about what is the next class that I should take, or what is the proper order in which I should take these classes. When am I considered an experienced shooter? When do I need to be on a maintenance program? And those are the things that we have a responsibility to coach people in the right way. We can't just let them stop at intro to handgun or license to carry. They need to move forward and learn the techniques of draw from holster, and learn the different ways to carry on the body and the proper ways to draw from those areas. Because sometimes you do have to holster it in the back of your pants instead of the front of your pants. Women dress differently than men. And those are things that I haven't seen instructors teach either, is, women have a whole different wardrobe than men do. You guys wear t-shirts, button-down shirts, and the occasional suit. You can carry the same way in all of those outfits. Women have a whole different wardrobe. So I created a program, like a workshop called Preparing What You Wear. And I teach women, I show them the different holster options that they have for a variety of outfits that they could wear, even ones that are a little tighter. There are ways to protect yourself in almost any outfit that you wear, and you don't have to purse carry to do it. So the idea is the curriculum needed to be created specifically for women and the different things that they face when it comes to firearms and weapons versus what men face.
Now, Jerah, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that, because men's wardrobe, well, today's men's wardrobes are changing.
Do we need to get you a thigh? Do we need to get you a thigh holster for your dress?
They're a little confused. But I'm just joking. I'm going to get a little backlash for that, but I don't care.
Are you saying you need a holster for your Speedo?
Are you?
We're gonna have to get him a Techniclip for his Speedo.
I'm not even going to go there. Okay, so I get asked this question all the time, and I'm sure you do as well. Have you ever had to use your training or pull out your gun in a real life situation?
Absolutely. There's been several occasions, actually. I did private security for a number of years, and that happened two times. And then I was actually the victim of a home invasion. I think it was either late 2018 or early 2019. I'd have to go back and look. But yeah, it's now, have I ever had to shoot anyone? No. And I love sharing that with people in my class, because it really hits home the necessity for a layered defense and understanding when and how to gain the tactical advantage. So you can avoid the psychological effects of having to shoot someone. You can avoid the legal fees that come with shooting someone and having to prove your innocence in a court of law if you have a really good understanding of how to gain the tactical advantage and how to use your layered defenses properly. And when we talk about layered defenses, we're talking about camera systems. We're talking about, motion sensor lights outside of your house. We're, talking about those things that help your situational awareness. And those are all the things that I teach in my classes, because it's not just about physical defense, right? The best gunfight is the one that you never find yourself in, right? And so how do we avoid that in and of itself? And how do we make sure that we do everything that we possibly can not to have to pull a trigger?
Everything that you're saying is about, it's the preserving life. Your life and the life of a person that is a potential bad guy with bad intentions. And I love hearing that. Our other sponsor that we have is also about preserving life or improving life, of which Steve is going to talk to us a little bit about this one.
Thanks, Ray. one of the things that I've discovered over just the past few months is that you can, in fact, preserve life and actually enhance your life by doing some very basic things. What I've started doing is I'm reversing my aging process using a stem cell activation patch. And I've got this little disc, this little wafer thin patch that was developed by a company out of Southern California. It's called LifeWave. This is the X39 patch, which actually tells my own personal stem cells to get back to work. By the time we reach the age 60, our stem cells have pretty much gone dormant. What this will do is, through science, it will actually tell your stem cells to go back to work. So whether you're a truck driver, you're a stay-at-home mom, you're a gun instructor, you're a martial arts instructor, you're a corporate sales rep, doesn't make any difference what you are. This stem cell patch will actually help you with things like improved sleep, reduce pain. It will help you with greater or faster wound healing. There's so many benefits that you're going to have. More energy, my energy level, just in the past few minutes since I've been using this stem cell patch, my energy level has gone up significantly. So I'm very excited to be able to share this new technology with as many people as I possibly can. I literally want to help you reverse your aging process. So company is LifeWave, and I'm an independent distributor for the company, and I'm having an absolute blast helping people change their lives, get out of pain, have better focus. So, Jerah, let me ask you this: we live in a society where people continuously misinterpret what the laws are, what the Constitution is, what the Bill of Rights are, all of those kinds of things. And I'm going to bet you have heard people argue with you about the Second Amendment, and they say, well, but the Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia. Are you part of a militia? It's not for the average person. Are you part of that militia? How do you respond to something as ignorant as that?
That's easy. Well-regulated militia means well-trained militia. And our founding fathers knew that. They were smart enough to understand that weapons would evolve, technology would evolve. And they really, I believe, wanted to hit home that you have to continue to learn and you have to continue to train. So we all agree that we don't want people running around with guns who've had no training. However, it is their right to be able to defend themselves. So one of the things that I came up with when I recognized this problem was I started a nonprofit called WADE, which is the Women's Awareness and Defense Endeavor. And I get women who are referred to me through many sources who have emancipated themselves from violent relationships, or they're single moms, or they're low income women and they can't afford this kind of training. And that's what we do, is we raise money and we get them trained up. And so this should never be, required, meaning it shouldn't be, you shouldn't be breaking any laws by not getting trained. No one should be criminalized for that, because some people just simply can't afford it. But we do need to do our part as humans with this kind of knowledge to impart it on people who are not as fortunate as we are. But well-regulated militia doesn't mean please continue to compound law after law on top of law and other law to restrict our ability to have a Second Amendment and to bear arms. It means continue to train and learn, because that's how you stay safe.
I want to train with you. I mean, I've had a lot of people that I've worked with as far as shooting, and everything that you said is like, I want to take your class. What are some resources that you have that you can share with our viewers, and mostly also women that are out there, to train with firearms across the United States. We can't be everywhere, so what are some resources that they can get to at least get a start and maybe set something up with them to come out and train with you, because I want to train with you.
Absolutely. There's a lot, and thank you so much. There's a lot of resources for people everywhere. One of the best resources is the Personal Defense Network. You can Google them. They're all on Instagram at PD Network. Their website has so many informative videos on almost every subject that you can think of when it comes to guns, and even weapons that aren't guns. There's a lot of resources on the Personal Defense Network, and I'm an instructor for them across the country as well. The books that they have are phenomenal, and they do talk about those 7 body's natural reactions to stress, stimulus, and fear. So that's a really good way for you to find a good instructor in your area, is to ask them, are they a Personal Defense Network instructor? Or have they heard of the Personal Defense Network? There are, go on Instagram and find amazing trainers like Barrett Kendrick and Derek Poole. There's some really good, there's My Sister's Keeper's Defense. She's amazing. That's Marshall. Some chick who shoots. She is an incredible instructor, and her family owns a range in Arizona. There's all kinds of, and there's even clothing resources for women. Alexo Athletica makes a whole line of activewear with holsters built into it for female runners and female joggers. That way that they can stay safe while they run. So there's, email me. My email is clearingthechamber@gmail.com. Give me 48 hours to respond. But there's all kinds of things out there now. There's all kinds of resources for you to be able to learn, some things online, but a lot of things in person. But you've got to manage your time well. And this is something that I really want to hit home with people who are listening, is your terrible time management, your disoriented life, your disorganized life is directly correlated to your safety, because people are looking at the distracted mom. They're looking at the stressed out woman walking to her car, and it does, they do recognize it, and it does make you a target. So understand that predators are expecting you to be unaware, unprepared, and unarmed. And you need to be all three as often as possible. And one of the most rewarding things that I get to do for women is I get to help them overcome that obstacle of fear. Guns are not something to be scared of. There's something that you learn, just like anything else in your life, just like sports, just like cooking. We've all been bitten by the stove, right? We've all been burned by the stove, and we're still alive to tell the tale. So I am not special. There is 0 things that make me better than you. And I have mastered this skill. And I promise there isn't a woman alive that is incapable of doing the same thing.
Jerah, it's kind of interesting you bring some of these things up. Ray and I were just having a conversation a few days ago about our awareness and how we are looking at different scenarios, how I look at things, how he looks at things. So this is a great refresher. I love hearing what you're saying. But I understand that you've got some different courses, some different trainings, additional trainings that you're doing. And I understand you recently teamed up with a mutual friend of Ray's and mine, Jeff McKissick, and you're doing some specialized training on college campuses. Tell us about what that training is all about. I'd love to know more about that.
Yeah, Jeff and I were introduced through another mutual friend who's a realtor in the area, because I was doing some realtor training, which is a whole nother podcast on why realtors, especially females, really need to get some training. But he was, we had met for lunch at La Madeleine years ago, and he was kind of telling me what he did, and we had kept in touch via social media over the years. And he got with me and said, hey, I have this book that I wrote called Power Proverbs of Personal Defense. And I really want to start reaching college age students, or, young girls that are going from high school into college. And, I'm wondering if you could, kind of help me bridge that gap. And I was like, absolutely. So we put together a program. We started, we put it out last month. It's been a huge success. As a matter of fact, I'm going on Good Morning Texas, which is here in Dallas, a news station here in Dallas on Friday mornings to talk about it because they picked it up. They picked up the story. So how funny was it that when I got referred to you guys to do this podcast, you knew Jeff. So that was pretty cool. And we are loving this program, and we are finding that, to our knowledge and the research that we've done, nobody else in the country is doing this. We're not seeing anybody else doing college safety seminars, especially the way that we are doing it. And so we want to take it nationwide. We want to start reaching people in high school. We want to start taking it to college campuses. And this program really focuses mainly on situational awareness and how to recognize negative behaviors in people so that you can excuse yourself from the situation before the trouble even begins, basically so that you can spot the trouble before it spots you. Okay, so we talk about external concerns in hour one, navigating college campuses, understanding your exits, how to deal with people who are trying to strike up conversations with you that you might not be comfortable with. And then the second hour, we talk about dating and boys, and we talk about, how to deal with potential domestic violence situations and how to navigate that. And then at the end, we do some scenario-based training where we teach these girls how to say no, and we teach them how to demand boundaries and demand personal space. And we instill the 21-foot rule, right? So it takes the average human being 1.5 seconds to clear 21 feet. So when you're scanning your surroundings and you're going to your car and you're being situationally aware, you need to make sure that you're spotting those people that are within 21 to maybe even 30 feet of you, and make sure that you understand and try to gather their intentions, via their body language or even tone of their voice. Because a lot of these young girls, they've never experienced the level of deceit that we talk about in this class. And they don't really understand that people could have bad intentions. And they definitely don't understand how quickly people can move. And so once again, you're showing them, you're putting into motion, and you're going where the mind, you're taking the body where the mind is going, so that you can instill this training into them so that they can fall back on it. Because as you probably know, you're always going to fall back on your lowest level of training.
Jerah, you just opened up so many new opportunities, and unfortunately we're running low on time. But one of the opportunities that you mentioned kind of in passing is real estate. My wife is a real estate agent. Are there specific trainings that you would take to a real estate office to share with some of the realtors in the process?
Yes, I have an entire program just for realtors that I've started. I actually went on a realtor podcast not too long ago to talk about it, because it really does blow my mind how many women walk around showing properties with no weapon and no formal training. I mean, understand that this is it's one of the most dangerous jobs out there. You are literally going to a place you've probably never been, and you're showing a property to somebody that you don't know. And this whole idea that you're safe because of the area that you're in is a complete farce. It's a complete falsehood. There are no safe places. There are only safe people, and you have no idea who you're meeting. This person is a complete stranger. It's so easy to get you to show up. There is no background check on these people. There's no way for you to vet how safe they are. They literally just call you and say, hey, I'm interested in buying this house. Can you show it to me? And you just show up. That's your plan, right? And so we walk them through this process of, how they can pick up on some of these psychological behaviors. One of the biggest pieces of advice I ever, I don't want to give away the whole program, but one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give realtors, and especially female realtors, is you really need to try to study that property before you go there so that you know where your exits are. And you need to let your client lead you through the house. You do not need to turn your back on that potential client because you don't know who they are. They need to be in your line of sight and not vice versa.
That's great advice. Thank you very much.
Well, we are running low on time. Is there any other classes that you guys offer, that you offer, that you'd like people to know about before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I teach intro for all platforms, which handgun, shotgun, rifle. I teach intuitive defensive shooting, which is basically draw from holster. I have a workshop called Prepare and What You Wear, which teaches you how to conceal carry in a variety of outfits. And then I do the what if scenarios, which is a scenario-based class, and I put you in different physical situations that you could possibly encounter. And this does, involve drawing from holster, but we use airsoft rifles. And then I started a new class last month called the Bullet Boot Camp. And so I have a lot of followers who don't live in the state of Texas but want to come and train with me. So this is a way for them to fly to Texas and really front load their training. So they would spend an entire weekend with me, and they would learn all the platforms, all the intros to all the platforms, and their draw from holster. And then we go through the Prepare and What You Wear workshop and the what if scenarios as well, all in one weekend.
That sounds like a plan. I might take you up on that. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise and with our viewing audience. And we would love to have you on a future show, because I know you've got a lot more inside the head of yours that you want to share, especially with things being so volatile going on with all the active shooters in New York and all the call to arms to take away our firearms. I'm sure Steve would agree with us that we'd love to have you back and give us more input and feedback on what's going on. To our Taboo Talkers, if you have questions, you can go to our Facebook page and leave a comment, like, share, and ask us questions so that we can answer you. Just like Jared said, give us 48 hours to answer the question, and we'd be happy to do it. And that's our Facebook page is, I should be popping up there. That's our email. If you want to give us an email, you can talk to us. Steve, you want to add to this real quick?
Yeah, I've actually got a special request of Jerah, and we can bring Jerah back online. I've got a huge request. You listed off several different resources, different things that you are doing, other books, other videos, other trainers, other websites. I'm going to ask that you go to our website, Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve, our Facebook page, and put some of those resources in, if you don't mind. Because I guarantee we've got some people that are in our audience right now that are saying, "Oh man, I wish you would go back and list those things again. I'm gonna watch this again. I want to replay this." You gave us a ton of information, and I'm thinking we need to have you as a regular on the program, because you've got a ton of knowledge, a ton of information, both that book knowledge as well as the practical application that a lot of instructors, a lot of people that we've talked to and will be talking to, well, on page 47 of my manual, no, I want to know somebody that's actually real life experiencing things. So would you be so kind as to share some of those other resources with us?
I would be so kind.
Thank you very much. That's an easy answer.
Absolutely.
That is an easy answer.
Can we get Jerah's Facebook information up there on the screen one more time, and how people can get a hold of her? I don't know if we've had that up there yet. There we go. Just hold that for a second or scroll down. Clearing the Chamber, I know you said your website is kind of being redone a little bit, so bear with it. You can go to her Facebook page and get the same amount of information, and get a hold of her for additional information. As always, like, share, subscribe. You can go to the Taboo Talk YouTube page, view all of our previous episodes. If once this one airs, you'd be able to replay it, watch it, and follow up with a lot of the talking points Jared mentioned. And as always, Heroes in Action is the sponsor for Taboo Talk, where we do lectures and seminars on all things violence prevention. And everything that you mentioned today, Jerah, is spot on. Loved hearing everything. It's always good hearing a perspective from another instructor, safety instructor, saying the same or offering the same message. So I love it. It's a good way to reinforce it. Steve, you want to add anything on the way out? Jerah, again, thank you for joining us on our show today.
Thank you so much for having me. We need people like you talking about things like this, and kind of getting that word out. So thank you.
Thank you. Jerah, thanks for being on the program. And if you would like to be a sponsor on Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve, we've got some opportunities for you to be able to share your message with our audience of 25,000 plus people and growing. And if you'd like more information from people like Jerah and some of the other people that we've had on in the past, stay tuned. Come back, watch the programs, share the programs, comment on the programs, like the programs. We're on Facebook and on YouTube right now. We are evaluating some of the other platforms as well. So there are going to be some great opportunities for you to get Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve in other places.
Absolutely. Steve, it's always a pleasure. Don't forget Steve's books, if you want to talk about your books behind you real quick.
Well, I've got 3 books so far. My half-brother is the story of Christ from the perspective of his half-brother James. I have Lessons from the Crutches based on me breaking my leg last year, and that's all the time we've got to talk about some of those things. So, Ray, it's been a great show as always.
See you next week.